All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Previously on the Journey. Pastor JD here with Brandy, Aaron, and Nell in their bright, shining faces, places. I don't know how to say that phrase all of a sudden. And tonight's special guest, Brian Cobb, is here with us tonight. So how exciting is that?
Good to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you, buddy. It's going to be a fun night. With that, let's just dive right into our first clip and get going. Remember, chat. Please, if you want to say something, Brandy is here. She's monitoring chat and looking for your comments so that she can share them with us. So please be talking. If you have something you want to ask Brian or you have something that you want to comment about what we're watching, please just join us and let's go to our first clip and get moving.
Saying a healthy, active church, I believe, is the hope of the world. A healthy, active church is the hope of the world. After all, the church was established by Jesus himself. And now Christians, those of us probably here today listening to this message, we tend to fit in one of three categories as it relates to the church. One group of people believe that the church is vital. The church is vital. Another group believes that the church is optional. I could go, I could not go, And then there's a third group of people, believe that the church is unnecessary, vital, optional, or even unnecessary.
Okay. Vital, optional, or unnecessary. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to first point out that he's saying Christians, like these are believers. This isn't like, he's not talking culturally. He's saying like this is like subcultures within our own little subculture. So like, I think that's important to kind of talk about before we get too deep into it, is that we are specifically talking about a Christian perspective. So, just wanted to.
Yeah.
Disclaimer?
No, that's good. No, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron, you.
I don't know. That's interesting. Oh, people. Come on. Come on, Christians. We can't be unified with this. That's not even a split.
Right. With unnecessary.
That's 33.33333333%. Come on, people.
Yeah.
I don't know if he went into numbers.
Just three groups. Maybe
It's
not
three
even groups.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
not
not
even
necessarily
groups.
equal across there, but
Right. Brian, what about you?
yeah.
I think when you just look at the word, if we say we're Christians, we've got to go by our standard. Our standard clearly says, don't forsake assembling yourselves together. So you got to think it's not unnecessary. So someone who thinks like that, and my brain says that maybe you're not reading the scriptures carefully, because there's no reason that you should think like that. But
I'd be curious to know where they,
yeah, how will you get
what their
that?
mindset is, how their worldview got to
Yes.
Yeah. I will say, though, and I'm sure all of us have had these moments in our lives where, we, especially once you give your heart to the Lord, you think that church is vital and gathering together. You kind of get that mindset. But then if you miss a Sunday or you don't come to church, even though it's only an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, 2.5 hours with driving, man, it feels like you gained an entire extra weekend when you miss church. I don't know why that is. And so then it becomes, maybe this should be optional in my life. And it's so easy to fall into that, I think, where if I don't go this day, who's even going to notice that I'm not there? Or what purpose am I serving at church on this day? And I think it's so easy to fall into that trap. And forgetting so many sermons that we've talked about where even your hug can be a life-changing experience for someone on Sunday. Your worship can help someone go further into worship. You may think, well, I'm not on the platform, so I'm not necessary. Well, no, it's not that church is vital. You're vital.
Yeah, it's good.
Is my thought.
Yes.
So,
And we are supposed to be the temple, which I think we mentioned in a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
So the building is just where we house them all.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
when the Holy Spirit came in, we're supposed to be the temple, the body.
right.
Yeah, I think you said it, which is I was going to say the same thing. Is You just don't know what you give to someone or what you might receive. And it may not be from the platform. It may be receiving something from right next to you or giving something to someone next to you. You just never know. But you'll never know if you don't show up.
That's right. Yeah. How could you?
You'll
How could
never
you
know.
know? Brandy, any thoughts? Or anybody in chat?
There's nobody in chat right
Okay.
now. I think that determining where you fall in these three categories is a good measure of your relationship with God. Because people who view the church and church attendance as vital they're there for a reason. People who think that it's optional, probably not as close to Christ. And then people who see it as unnecessary, I mean, that would be where the relationship is too.
That almost like makes me think about another perspective on it too, though. So like, why do they see it as vital? And so then getting almost to that root, it's like, are they seeing it as vital because it's just checking a box off of their to-do list and they feel like that's what's going to ensure their salvation is just showing up? Or are they feeling like, it's vital because they want to grow their relationship with God and with others and community? So I think the why behind it is going to be huge too. And same with the unnecessaries. Is it unnecessary because they went through church hurt?
Right. Right.
So I think
That needs to be that needs to stop.
church hurt? Or are we talking?
The idea, no. You can keep talking. She can keep talking, to be clear. But labeling everything as church hurt,
Yeah.
we all need to grow a backbone. I mean, I'm just,
Yeah, I
we just
agree
need to grow a
with that.
It
backbone,
was
people.
a for instance.
I know, but that is the that's the card that is played every time,
That's a good point.
and that
Yeah.
no more, no mas.
Well,
Come on,
but
people.
there can be real church
There
hurt.
can be, sure.
So-
Can be.
Yes,
But we're not
yes.
talking about like
They didn't make my favorite copy. They didn't sing my favorite song.
Yes,
Yeah.
like that's
They
not
offended
church hurt.
me by some statement or some interpretation of something.
Yeah.
Get over yourselves, people.
I mean,
that's what I have to say.
And not
Yeah.
to take it to a different place, but church hurts, the conversation about church hurts, I mean, it needs to be had because let's be honest. I mean, everybody's been hurt, even in the world, people who are non-Christians. But, if Walmart, mistreated me or something like that, I'm still going to go shopping,
But
Right.
then there's
know?
also times you go to a restaurant one time and you get treated badly and you never go back
That's fair.
again. And
That's
so
true.
like,
That's
you know,
true.
it could I'm sorry, I'm playing devil's
No,
advocate.
no.
No, I think it's good.
I think that Chanel is pointing on something that is very important, and that is this idea of just because it's vital, there are things that we do to a person who's addicted to cigarettes. That next cigarette is vital.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's the best thing for them. They do it because it's routine and it's habit. In the same way, there are people who come to church and they don't really have a great relationship with Jesus. They come to church because, grandma made me go to church, and then mom told me it was important. And so this is what I do. I go to church and I tick my box. And now I can go do whatever else I need to do. And that's not really what Pastor Tim is trying to point us towards either.
Right.
And so I do think that is a good point. But yeah, I get it. A lot of strong feelings around church hurt, as you all saw.
That's why we could talk a lot
but
about.
we
I
could,
still have more feelings about that.
we could talk about that one for quite some time.
Oh, yeah.
But since I have the dial, we're going to move on.
There you go.
And let's keep trucking.
You can go out from here and be the church. Please do. But also come here and be the church together. Paul writes clearly that the church is made up of many parts. Some of us are evangelists. Some of us are teachers. Some of us have gifts of mercy and gifts of healing. We need all of us in order to make the church work.
So some short clips tonight, but I think some stuff that is really important for us to talk about, because I feel like a lot of people view church in the lens of, if I'm serving and doing something, then I will show up. And if I'm not, then I'm good. I don't have to go punch the ticket today, as it were. And I'm not necessary on that day. And so kind of continuing this discussion, around, we're not all pastors. And so let's discuss that for a minute.
Can I add, to kind of correlate what we just talked about? I think that right there is a problem that stems from a lot of church hurt. And I'll say it's because people are in different positions, and then one person feels like their gift isn't valued, and they're put down, and they leave or they walk away hurt because either A, I've done all this work and I'm not noticed, or hey, I have all these skill sets and nobody notices me. And it in some aspects, that's what I've seen a lot of church hurt come from.
Yeah.
Because it's just a valuing of someone's gift.
Brian, can I kind of, Brian is such an excellent example of this because, I've known Brian for a few years now. And one of the things that I love about him is that when there is work that needs to be done, he doesn't really check with anybody to find out how it needs done. He goes and gets it done, and he doesn't really seek a lot of applause or praise. You're just a guy who just jumps in and does the need. Where does that stem from in you? What drives you to recognize the need and go do it and not even be looking for praise?
I think for my personal world, it's just I just like things to just keep moving. Just to seek things in order, because I think, you look out in the world around us, things are nice. You go to a restaurant or a store or something, and you see it looks just so nice. Why can't we duplicate that in the church? And I don't just do that just in my church, but I do that in my personal life because I just have this desire to just see things be right. And I feel like God has given all of us an ability to do something. And to just sit on the side and do nothing, it kind of goes back to the story in the Bible of the parables of and the talents. Everybody has a talent. Just use it. It takes nothing to bend over and pick up some paper and walk to a trash can. If everybody did that, not only in the church, if we did that in our communities, how nice your neighborhood could be if you just pick up something, make a difference. But everyone has this mindset, well, that's someone else's job. And if we all have that mindset, it's just a mess. And you see that sadly happen in the church. And you don't have to have, like you said earlier, you don't have to be on stage to make a difference.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest differences are people behind the camera.
Right.
All of those things that no one ever sees, but as God always says, God sees.
That's right.
He will repay.
Right.
And we have to keep that mindset.
And I think you touched on something that I think is really important. And I don't even know if you realized you did it, but like you talked about your community. And so I think when you feel invested in your community and you want, and you're like proud of your community and the people around and like what it represents, then you want it to look nice.
Yes.
It's not going to matter whether or not it's your job or not. You're going to realize like I have the power to make change and impact things, and so you're gonna make that choice to pick up the trash or say hi to the person you haven't seen yet, or you're gonna want to put back into your community. Whether you in our church is our community, and I think it's just as important as whether it's your neighborhood or more so really, because it's its own family. And so anyway, it's a good point, Brian.
Yeah, well, thank you. All right, so early in the podcast.
Get them early, get them often.
Yes, but I would say, just to even add more onto that, is just, if you go into the store and you see a pair of socks on the floor in the store, and I mentioned Walmart, whatever retail store you go to, sometimes the Holy Spirit says, hey, how's about you pick that up? And I've just learned, listen to the Holy Spirit. It could be something so small as that, but if you do those little things, then He will use you to do big things. But if He can't trust you in the small little things,
that's
and
true.
it takes no effort for me really to just pick something up and hang it back on the hanger and keep walking.
Yeah.
Right.
But that pair of socks is going to go to somebody who may have to buy it, or a shirt or something like that. And that's just my mindset.
No, that's good.
Even in
It's
church.
good.
So.
Yeah.
That's good. Paul talks about that fivefold ministry, but it goes even deeper than that.
Yeah.
There are so many roles that need filled in the church, right? Christ is the head of the church, but then we are the body, and Paul often tries to break that down into the different roles that the way that the body functions and does what it does, and so your part in the church, in this community, like Chanel mentioned, you play a part, a vital part, whether you know it or not. You may be like, oh, I'm just a pinky toe. Well, you know what? If we don't have you, we fall over,
Be the inner ear.
Yeah, right? You may bring balance to the force. Like what you do may just be I think of like little Carolyn DeHoney, right? Like her gift to the church was hugs. But man, she gave great hugs, and she made everybody feel that warm feeling of happiness and family just because there was grandma right there when you walked in the building, and she was going to hug you. And that was her purpose. She didn't sing. She didn't preach. That was what she did, was give hugs, and she did it doggone well. And I think that if we would all figure out that one talent, like Brian mentioned, and figure out how can I apply the thing that I'm good at. Maybe you change diapers really, really well. Man, that's a need. Maybe you sing really, really well. Maybe you can monitor a camera really, really well. There's 1,000 things that need done at church, and it all comes together to form the body. And to be able to do what we do. And you are no less important than I am, or than Pastor Noel is, or even Pastor Tim. And I hope that, I'm telling you, I've had these discussions with Pastor Tim and Pastor Noel. We firmly believe that as your pastoral staff. It's not about us.
Yeah.
And we can only do so much as individuals of the body, but the rest of you coming together with us, that's what makes us be able to do awesome stuff as the journey.
It's good.
So, all right. Any other thoughts?
I think this is one of those things that sometimes, especially with newer people in the church, we don't know what everybody's good at. We don't know what your gifts are. You may not even know what they are. So sometimes just going up to somebody in leadership and saying, hey, I want to do something.
Yeah.
Well, how can I find out? Pastor Tim has questionnaires that you can do that can point you to different things that can tell you maybe you're good at this.
Yeah.
Or they can say, hey, we have a need here. Let's try this. And go try it for a while. And if it's not your thing, they'll put you something else.
Right.
It's not like you have to stay committed for years on end. If you don't like it, say something and they'll move you.
Yeah.
Volunteer for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But so often people don't.
Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
They just sit there and they're like, well, nobody sees me. Well,
And that does happen. And I think that, I am not trying to put words in Aaron's mouth at all, but I think that is the kind of church hurt that Aaron is talking about. That, man, that's not really church hurt. There are, if you have been through, and I'm not trying to put somebody's church hurt over anybody else's church hurt, but there are things that Pastor Brian Cobb and this pastor have seen in our lives. Man, y'all don't really know what church hurt is. I'm sorry to say it that way. But that doesn't mean that what you experienced isn't vital and isn't real, but really explore, like, did I express my concerns? Did I share, how I felt, and really sit down and have a deep discussion? Because most of the time what I've found in a lot of cases is it's misunderstanding that then gets blown into proportion of church hurt. And really, there was never even a conversation had with Pastor Tim. And that happens so often, you guys wouldn't even believe it, where he doesn't even get to speak to the person who is offended or hurt. Talk to us. We're just people. If we sang the wrong song, or if we, changed the carpets to the wrong color, we can talk about those things. Hopefully those aren't deal breakers. But I get it. I get that everybody's perception is their reality, and it is a very difficult topic.
Right.
Because your hurt is your hurt.
Yeah, it's really just an avoidance. People are just avoiding. They'd rather assume, and they would rather just say, well, nobody understands me. And so they just internalize it and leave.
Because community takes work, right?
Or it's like a 2-minute, yeah, exactly. Or it's a 2-minute conversation, and there was no context to it, or it wasn't deep. And then it was just, I've seen some letters and some other things that have come across, even sitting on the deacon board.
Yeah.
Not anything uglier than that.
Yeah.
Reading through some of this stuff and going, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds very selfish and very one-sided, which it generally is.
Yeah.
I could be really transparent with you guys, and I may have shared this already on this show, but about 3 months before we started this show, we had to sit down, the four of us, and have a come to Jesus powwow moment about, hey, there were questions that were still in the air about what we were doing with this show, and what the goal was. And we could have easily gotten all hurt and upset with each other and all that. We didn't do that. We sat down, we had a really tough discussion, heart to heart, and we hopefully found mutual ground somewhere in the middle of it and worked it out. But that's what you but that's what you do, because our friendship is far more important than anything else, and that doesn't mean that we're always going to agree. The same thing with meeting someone like Pastor Brian here. Pastor Brian has done remarkable. I love you, man. I mean, he's done remarkable things for the Lord. He's an ordained minister of the gospel for the Assemblies of God, and I mean, I remember the day that he walked into my church. And I could have been very quickly, what's this all about? Why is this guy here? Is he taking over my spot? Is he getting to do my thing? No, I was so excited. I think right off the bat we just hit it off.
Right. And I'll add to what you just said. I think it's so important to just communicate. I think about an experience in ministry where it was our men's ministry, and we were having a meeting, and one of the guys said, something that I didn't respond to him about something, and I had no clue, and I said, I don't even remember that. And I said, I am so sorry. I just don't remember it, but please forgive me. And I just looked at how it made him feel, that I apologized to him, but the fact that he told me, but had he not told me, I would have never known.
Yeah.
I would have never been able to apologize with a sincere heart, because I thought, man, if you were hurt, I am so sorry. And we hugged, and we went on to do ministry together. But it's just a lot of times people just don't know, and if someone's been hurt, it's so important that just to communicate, and just what you said.
Yeah,
that's more than half the battle. Just share and have a conversation.
It really is. But it can be difficult.
Yeah, it can be.
And so I think that our society now kind of teaches us to be kind of non-committal as a whole. That's why social media has messed up social interaction, because we don't do it enough anymore. And so then when we see someone bring out the angry eyes, we get scared, or we get defensive, or because we're not used to that kind of interaction. And I think that really one of the biggest things that we can do is going back to both of these clips, is just show up and make a try, make an effort. Especially here at a church like the Journey Church, where we're so diverse, it can take even more of an effort than a normal. I won't say a normal church, but a church. Listen, y'all know, a church that's predominantly all the exact same people, everybody sitting in the pew.
Monochromatic.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I mean, we're a kaleidoscope in this church, and by design, that's what we want to be. But that brings with it, just last Thursday, we did a viewing of a documentary on Juneteenth that I unfortunately didn't get to attend. But you probably aren't doing that if everybody in your church is predominantly white. I doubt you have much of you don't even really know why we celebrate Juneteenth as a national holiday. But I can tell you that a lot of the people that showed up here at our church to watch that were white Caucasian people who wanted to learn, hey, is this going to help me understand my brothers and sisters in Christ just a little bit more? And that's why we did that, and but that can also step on people's toes for whatever reason. And so, you just got to keep showing up. Yeah. I think that's everything. Yeah. You never get the chance to be the apostle or the teacher or the preacher or the prophet. You never get a chance to be any of those things if you sit on the sidelines, like Aaron said earlier, and don't even participate. Then who is that on? If you are called but no one is letting you use your gifts, well, if you're sitting on the sidelines and you're not engaged, how do we use you in those instances?
That's good.
Man,
it's good.
So much stuff. You guys have taken this in a total. Yes, please do. No,
but I will say, no matter what, you do have to show up. You do have to communicate, and you do have to accept the fact that hurt will happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, even Jesus said, "In this life, you will have trouble."
Yeah.
But take heed and know I've overcome the world. I mean, that's part of life. If I go running around and, in some rocks, there's a good chance I might fall and skin my knee.
Yeah.
But that's the risk you take. But I won't have fun if I never run.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
I
right.
have to be willing to take the risk.
Yes.
Even in sports, there's a chance you could get hurt. But I mean,
So there's a chance your Achilles could pop in the most important game of
sorry, I
the
know.
season.
You were going to bring
that's
that
what
up,
I was
weren't
going to
you,
say.
right?
Yes.
He was going to put that in somewhere.
Oh, it hurts.
We love you, Hallie. Get better. All right.
Yes.
Let's keep going. Man, I'm really loving the discussion.
Yeah, it's good.
This is fun. Let's keep going. We have got Smo.
In our internet culture, people can post anything and say anything they want. What are their credentials? Who are they accountable to? What kind of Bible training have they had? And then, if they pass that test, then I watch or I listen with a discerning spirit.
All right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about those who might try to lead us astray in the last days, which is in the Word. Anybody want to chime in on this?
So I want to build a little bit of context for what he was talking about prior to this. So he was saying, he gets sent stuff all the time. And I think that's really important because I'm sure we all get sent stuff all the time. And we come across stuff in our social media life all the time where it's like, and AI right now can do some really crazy things and make it seem like somebody that's credible is saying something that's not. And so, so I feel like what he was saying, those twofold things, who's talking, and who's making them talk. I'm going to throw that out there. He didn't say that, but I think with AI, we can,
No, that's fair.
We can, throw it out there and just say who's talking, what are their credentials, and do they pass that litmus test?
Yeah, pass the muster. Yeah.
And then what are they saying, and what are we comparing that to for our truth? And is our when we talk about righteousness, it's are we doing a biblical righteousness here, or are we just basing it upon what I want it to be?
Yeah, my own definition.
Yeah.
I find that in light of what he was saying, that we have so many avenues that lead us to the scriptures, but people don't read it. I mean, because if you read the word for what it says, then you, for yourself, and what it says, when someone else says something that doesn't line up, you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. Because this is what it says. And I think we're so inundated with podcasts, people who are saying things that are so far out there, but they have some sort of cool something in the way they put it out there that it's just constant. We're for social media, and it's not just the big networks. We're on our own social media now, because if I have a social media page, I can say whatever I want and put a message out there.
Yep. Keyboard commando.
Keyboard commando. So we have to be careful that we read the word, read what it says, and say, God, this is what you said. And leave it there. And I will say that I found that if people argue with you on what's in the word, that you don't have to worry, because God said they're not mad at you, they're mad at me.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's a little bit more peace, because it's not me saying it, it's what God said.
Yeah.
So that says you're mad at God, not me.
Me, yeah.
Because I didn't write this, And then of course, the people get into versions, and I mean, for the most part, you get another version of the Bible. It says the same thing. It may use some different words, but the concept is still the same. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit is still the same. It doesn't matter what version of the Bible you read. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I mean, it's the same, no matter what. So I would simply say is people just have to read the Bible. And I think that's one of the challenges. And when you don't, you're getting so many messages from people and from places and from things, and then people are confused ultimately.
Yeah.
And they just don't know what to believe. And then they ultimately believe nothing or trust no one.
Yeah.
And that's dangerous. That's a very dangerous place to get.
Yeah. Aaron, any thoughts?
I was just thinking that it's sad where we've gotten today. Social media, for all of its good, is also terrible. And my immediate thought was, Oh, I think it's got its good things. I mean, we're putting a podcast out on
You
Agreeing
better
with
believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're making a good point.
this.
It was a good point,
But my immediate thought was those who had been with Jesus when they stood before the ruling authorities of the church or of the Sanhedrin or the the Jewish leaders.
You're good.
They knew they had been with Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Right. Just from,
So you wonder what was coming out of their mouth when I think about social media people, speaking or what they're putting out in their AI generated crap or whatever it is. They knew it.
yeah.
They knew it. And so it's sad that we have destroyed our platforms for those who may be speaking actual truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pastor Tim said in that clip, he goes, "Oh, what's their credentials? What's their this? What's their that? The disciples had no credentials,
Yes.
but they knew they were the Sanhedrin knew that they had been with Jesus.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that? I want to know what that credential looks like.
That's cool. That's a good point.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a good point.
See?
Yes.
I'm going to buy those two a bell for their next anniversary, just so they can
August,
ring
August
each
9th,
other all the
baby.
You
time.
got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. But there, especially like I really like how Chanel started this conversation. When you look at like Instagram, right? Half of the photos that you're looking at are so doctored, and especially now that I've become a photographer, I can do some amazing things. I took some pictures of Chanel and Aaron's daughter for her prom, and there were literally hundreds of people in the background. I made all of them disappear. I made her teeth a little bit whiter. I was able to kind of move her around in the background and make the fountain bluer and all that. Really and truthfully, that was fake.
Yeah.
That wasn't the picture I actually took.
Right.
Yeah.
The picture I actually took had a bunch of stinking people in it. Her hair was kind of funky, and we're able to touch those things up. And so then it gets so much harder, especially in today's society, I think, to judge a salt based on its saltiness.
Especially when it's not really salt; it's all fake salt.
Yeah, it's all fake, right? And so
Throw it out and trample on people.
yeah,
This is Dad.
Lot's wife salt. And so, I think that's why what Brian is trying to say to us is so important, is that you have to know the word for yourself.
Yeah.
The fact that Pastor Brian knows the Bible really, really well, and he's going to be preaching here in just a couple weeks to us.
No pressure.
No pressure. It's going to be awesome.
Maybe good.
But the fact that he knows the Bible really well really doesn't help you much.
Yeah.
You did.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The fact that I know the Bible pretty well, how is my faith, other than you getting to follow me as I follow Christ, how does my faith really help you in your personal relationship walk with Jesus? I don't check on these three every week to ask them how'd your devotional time go today? But I know that the three of them have had it because I trust them, I know them, and I see their fruit, back to Brian's point. Yeah. So I know what they're doing because I can tell they've been with Jesus, But they're not with Jesus because of something I did. They're with Jesus because of their own discipleship and their own where they want to be. And you have to get to that point too. And here's the reason why. This is what's so important, because I've seen it time and time and time again. This is not going to happen because I will not let it happen. But let's say that Pastor Tim comes into the church here, and this is not happening, but let's say that he comes in a couple weeks and says, "Hey guys, I'm taking another pastorate, I'm gone. Deuces. Going to another church." Do you know how many people would stop coming to church the very next Sunday? And I've seen it before. I've seen a church of 400 drop to 200 the next Sunday because the pastor left. Well, why did that happen? It's because their faith was in the pastor. It wasn't in God. They weren't committed to the church and the community that was being built there. They were connected to that one dude. And when that one dude had a moral failure, or that one dude, left the church, or that one dude moved on in ministry, everybody was like, oh no, my world's collapsing. How will I get fed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good point.
Don't get me started. Move on. Well, she's bell happy today.
She is. And you get a bell, and you get a bell.
Move on, JD. Let's go.
But I mean, I think it's so important that you begin to work out your own faith with fear and trembling. And I think that's all of us are trying to say the same thing here tonight.
Yes.
Except for Brandy. Would you like to say the same thing with us one more time?
Actually, I have something completely different.
Oh,
Even better.
So, social media always has two sides.
It does.
When we are consuming media, we have the option to take it in and think about it, and what are we going to do with it? So I think there's a level of integrity here that we need to keep in mind. That are we going to just take in whatever we see and spew it right back out in the same way? Or are we going to take that in and look it up? Are we going to see, fact check?
We're gonna test it,
Is
yeah.
this
Our
true?
own filtering.
Yes,
Yeah. I like
before
that.
we reshare it. And then decide also to think about, if I do share this on different platforms, because those platforms reach different people, how is that going to be received by those people? And the way that it is
Yes.
worded or presented, is this what I want people to see from me?
I feel like I'm in the British Commons. Hear, hear.
yes, right. Yeah, no, that's so good too.
That is so true.
Because I mean, you really need to weigh the things. I remember, like, being a younger person. You probably, well, I mean, we're all about the same age, but I don't know everybody's background. Like, watching televangelist, like, that was a big thing.
I tried to avoid that.
Yeah,
honestly.
right. But like, and some of them were so cringe, like, and you could just tell, like,
Oh, yeah.
certain individuals who are like, I don't praise God like this, I praise God like this, and they start kissing the rings on the back of their hand. Ugh, it just makes you
What were
cringe.
you watching?
I will not say his name, but you have probably seen him in your life.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Prosperity
that were
preaching
very
at its
scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's like, but you have to.
Yes.
So many people have given to those causes, and I'm God's telling me I need a bigger jet. Not the one I have isn't sufficient anymore. And then hundreds of thousands of people donate hundreds of thousands of dollars to these online preachers, and these. Just weigh it, like Brandy's saying, and really test it, and be like, man, I can't find jet in the Bible. Can you help me?
Just a fiery chariot. We'll
Jesus
put you on a
walked
fiery chariot.
everywhere he went.
Fiery chariot.
Yeah,
Fiery
there you
chariot,
go.
baby. We'll put you on a burning chariot and send you on your way.
All right. Well, that was a ton of fun stuff. Now, part of the show that we love, that Brian, unless he's watched it, he has no idea what we're doing as we grab these cards.
Pressure cooker.
Yep. We are going to get to know Pastor Brian Cobb just a little bit better. Who would like to start? And so basically, we're going to rapid fire questions at you, and you just tell us your life story.
I'll start.
Okay.
I want to start.
All right. Oh.
Okay.
I'm
I'm being a little obstinate here.
That's okay. All right. If you ran a restaurant, what would you serve?
Ooh, a restaurant.
That's good.
Probably fish, because, as a Christian, I'm still.
At least you didn't say Jesus.
Wow.
I would go fishing and say, Lord,
Fish and bread?
should I fish on the left side of the boat or the right
There
side?
you go.
There you go.
Yeah, fish and bread.
You've got a
And
crazy
like,
sense of humor.
fish
You
is
know
so
that?
broad.
Oh, my
like, do
goodness.
you have like?
I will tell you.
Specialty
Had a
dish?
chance to go to Alaska. Halibut is really good.
Halibut is really
It's
good.
expensive, but it is delicious. King crab is delicious. but-
salmon.
Yes, salmon as well. I mean, it is a difference. The
It
salmon
is.
we get here.
No, smoked salmon.
Oh yes, but even
Smoked
this,
salmon.
smoked salmon is really
Yes.
good.
But like fresh, where you had to fight
Fresh.
a bear
Oh.
for it.
Yes.
Like
There
out
you
of the
go.
stream.
Yes, and I will tell you, you do not want to be in the wild with a real grizzly bear. Those things are huge. But fish, because it's easy, I think. But I would like to probably have more of a buffet. Everybody comes to
Oh, yeah,
buffets.
there you go.
The chum bucket.
How, and
I don't think that was a buffet.
I know, right? It's like,
Yeah, you won't find a
that.
halibut buffet. I can tell you that.
yeah. Those are some ugly fish, though, man.
I know.
But they're tasty.
Yes, they are delicious. So,
What do you value in a friendship?
ooh, man, I will say fun. Obviously, having fun, and out of that, you hope that trust is there as well. But have fun with your friends, and your friends should be honesty, fun. Because why do we have friends? Because those are people that encourage you. Those are people that fill you up and fuel you, and that's why you want friends. Otherwise, why would you have friends if they don't build you up? So, yeah, fun, honesty.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could invent anything, what would it be?
Ooh, invent anything. Could you be more specific, in what you might say? Like, are we talking about for the
Anything.
home?
If you could,
Anything.
if you could invent anything, yeah, that made your personal life better,
I know
what would it be?
Ooh,
I don't want to take your answer.
I would think a time warp, or should I say, a place to get from place to place
That's what it would be.
instantly.
100%.
Could you imagine?
Transporter, baby.
Could you imagine how awesome that would be?
Yes.
Now, this is way off.
Yeah, I
not the
spent the
question.
day in Australia. I just
Exactly.
came back today.
You come back. I mean, that would just be amazing. But
Had lunch for you.
and more. No, that's almost impossible. But
No.
it would be cool
It would be
if, as a Marvel guy,
Yeah.
to some extent, I should say, X-Men, not Marvel, but
That is Marvel. You're
I
right.
know it has changed now. Acquisitions. But I do like Magneto. That would be cool.
That'd be cool.
To be able to control metal, because you can just make a little
Whatever
plate
you
and
need.
take yourself places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Pick the
things
slow
like that.
car in front of you up. And
Exactly.
The
You
other
can
way.
move things. Our world of metal.
behind
That
Pick
would
your
be cool.
car up.
Wow,
and
I
move
like
it.
that. That's
Yes.
good.
So
Slide in.
I am a Magneto fan.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So out there, please.
Right.
That's cool.
Magneto shirts.
Brotherhood of Mutants. Okay. That's great. We now know where he stands. Okay, let's move on before we get arrested.
I love it. I love it.
What are you most looking forward to in the next week?
Wow. In the next week.
Wow.
Who
wrote these
sunshine, continued sunshine, maybe a little rain to kind of wet the grass to keep it alive from turning brown. But, this time of year, it's just nice to have the sun because, as you all know, the months go by and we look back up and it's wintertime again.
Yeah.
I especially love the fact that it's 6 o'clock in the morning and the sun is
Yeah.
already shining. That is wonderful. So to answer your question again, the sunshine, just enjoying every
Beautiful.
bit of it.
Okay, so if you could have any animal at all in the world, assuming it could be, you could domesticate it, any animal, okay? What animal would you have as a pet?
No question, it would be a lion. Those things are cool.
I like
Those
it.
things are cool.
Aslan.
I love how fast
But I
you
would want
answer.
more of the female lion. They don't have the big mane. I would want the big mane. All that
Fur
hair.
everywhere.
Don't want that over the couch.
Exactly. Not on the couch,
Yeah.
but they are just fascinating animals just to watch. And
Yeah.
I think I'm always fascinated by lions.
Awesome.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be? Not Indiana. I'm just joking. You already
Man,
live
If
there.
you say
You already
Indiana,
live there.
I was going to say Avon, but so much for that. I mean,
It's fine.
anywhere in the world, you know what? Just wherever it's sunny all the time and nice and cool. I got to tell you, San Diego's nice, but it's pretty crowded and expensive. But someplace like that, where there's fish,
Yeah.
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 there's nice weather, there's sunshine. Oh, and obviously we don't have a big body of water. We do have the White River, which is nice, I might add.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I can't put that.
He's selling it. Come on, move
come
to
on.
Indiana.
Right, Indiana. But no, just someplace where just the weather's nice. And I think that's why heaven appeals to me, because I read in the Revelation of what heaven's going to be like. I'm like, I got to go there. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to end up there
Yeah.
in my life. So,
I feel that.
yes.
I mean, I remember one time I asked an older gentleman in the church, I was like, why, what is so great about heaven? And he's like, honestly, hell sounds awful. He's like, can you imagine being hot all the time?
Oh, man.
And I was like, oh, well, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Like, like that may be
So
just
true.
enough for some of us. All right. What was your first job, my friend?
My first job was Kmart. Real job.
Kmart. What is this relic?
Stocking.
Oh, that's so mean.
Loved Kmart, man. You know, and I was the stockman, so I got the carts, and that's when the carts were metal carts, not these plastic things that you sometimes see. And we didn't have a fancy little machine that we had remote control of pushing for us. It was all manpower. So, yeah, but it was great. I mean, I miss those days and some of the retail world. Now we're an online shopping world, but yeah, Kmart was so fun. It was great. I learned a lot. You know, I mean, as a stockman, I had to do it all. I had to, you know, and those were the days I would say of where you took a box TV and someone would come with a small Chevette and put it on the top of their car and look at you
Figure it out.
as a kid in high school and go, how are we going to get this to my house? And that's when, you know, we would have to wrap it up with twine. You know, those days are over because of insurance risks. But yeah, I mean, you got creative, and you would see people pull out of the lot with a gigantic TV of those days and think, dear Lord, please let them make it home.
Or at least out of the parking lot so that it's their issue.
No returns.
Yeah,
after
no
you leave the
returns,
lot.
right?
You know, it's so funny when Brandy and I went to Vegas recently. Well, it's been a couple of years ago now, and we went into a mall and they had a Champion store. Like that was the store.
Wow.
And that was the big brand that you bought at Kmart
Yes.
back when we were all kids.
Yes.
And so I walked in, just nostalgia all over my face. And the little girl came up in her, full decked out Champion gear. And she's like, can I help you? And I'm like, no. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're old. Yeah.
She said that to you?
Yeah, she's
That's
like,
fantastic.
Yep.
Taking it all in.
She's like, oh, yeah, this is a brand now. I was like, yeah, it was a brand when I was a kid, too.
I have to say is I actually still have a board game called the Blue Light Special.
Wow.
Kmart, yes.
I would love to know the copyright on that.
I know. Oh, it's
There are three
It's in the
functional.
last century. I'll say that.
There are 4 functional Kmarts in the world still.
Where?
3 in the Virgin Islands and 1 in Guam. It says.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
easy
guess
to
we're
get
going on a trip.
Yeah.
Road trip. I'll
There
say
we go.
that.
Road trip and a little
If I
swimming.
had that portal, I can get in there and be like, come back.
There you go. There you go.
Sitting here with my icy, like, hey guys, I'm back.
All right, Brandy, hit him with one more.
What is something on your bucket list?
Ooh, man, that's good. Well, I just need to collect a few more funds. I was going to do the little Katy Perry to space thing, but she's already ruined it for me. I'm just kidding.
Like you were going to take Katy Perry to space, or you were going to go? Oh, okay.
I'll let your wife know. No, it would be cool to go in space, but then I realized the risks are too great. So man, that's a good question. Just now that kids are getting older, just travel, see some things I haven't done. But I will say is, I'm so at this point in my life, I'm so grateful to God that I've got to do things that I never ever imagined I would have ever got to do in my lifetime. So I really am. When I say I'm so grateful, it's not like there's things that I must see that or else. I'm just grateful, and I think it's a joy that I can say that because a lot of people just aren't at that place of life. So I'm just happy.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, everybody. Now you know Pastor Brian Cobb just a little bit better. And we're going to keep going. We've got Pastor Daryl's sermon here. We could get a few clips in before the night runs out. So let's keep going.
Yeah.
A champion is not made on today. It's not made on the game that they played today. The champion is made in that wait between the end of one season and the beginning of another. That's when the champion is made. And so this morning, I want to encourage you to let you know that you may find this season of your life in a waiting, in a holding moment, but it's to make you a champion.
Mm-hmm. You are a champion, my friends. All right, who's got something on this? Any thoughts?
I will say, before I say anything about what he said, I just appreciated his energy
Yeah.
Sunday. Not that the other pastors don't bring energy, but Daryl even prefaced the entire sermon with, "I'm going to be excited today." And
Yeah.
he was. It was very good.
Yeah.
Waiting sucks. And I feel like I've been waiting for a long
Isn't that a
time.
great This is very good.
Right?
Reading sucks.
That may be the most profound thing that's ever been said on this show.
Yes.
I'm kind of in a mood today, I'll be honest. But, 44 years of, and I don't know that I'm waiting for anything major, but it feels, I don't like waiting. I will not go somewhere if I have to wait very long.
He hates waiting.
And it's not because I'm an impatient person, but I am an impatient person. But I have a lot of patience for other things.
You have patience for people, for the one-on-one.
Yes.
The situational, like
Yes.
waiting for traffic, waiting
Yeah.
in line, waiting.
Lego patience.
And no. And
I don't know.
I don't even know what that means. I just said no.
Yeah.
But there are times I've yelled at God to say, hey, man, you might have 1,000 years, or you might have a millennia, or you might have eternity. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and then of course I turn and say, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a smart aleck or sarcastic person.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, I don't want to wait till I'm 80, to be the champion, as Daryl put it. But I realize that some people don't get their champion moment until they're glorified, as they used to say.
Yeah.
So I've heard that my entire life too. So it's an interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess I would say, and you and I, this will probably relate to your world of you're in that waiting, that, and trusting that God will do something in your situation, but it just takes a while. And I think back to, as I've shared with you, JD, going through being downsized and being without a job. And I remember back in 2008 during that recession, it was very, very difficult. And you're serving the Lord and you're like, God, why? Why am I going through this? What did I do wrong? I'm honoring you. There are other people who don't honor you, but here I am waiting. And, the months, went by because it was very difficult. And then you start to think, have I sinned, Lord? Have I done something wrong?
Yeah. Right.
Start repenting.
Yes, you're repenting every day.
Right.
And then, and it's not that you've done something wrong, it's the wait. And in that process, I learned so many lessons in that process, in that experience. But when you come out of that, you're so excited, but it's weird. As you move on, you see what God did. You kind of miss the wait in a weird way. You don't want to go back, but you miss it because you realize how much you grew closer to God during that wait, and it builds you and prepares you for the next lesson of your life. So.
Yeah, it's definitely a humbling, experience to go through. I remember from my own perspective, shortly after I got let go from a job that I had literally just gotten told what an excellent employee I was and maybe was, changing this company for the better. And then a month later, I'm being told, hey, get your stuff out of your desk, you're gone. In a job that I loved and loved those people and they loved me. It wasn't like that. It was just a downsizing. And that hurt. But then it was probably a month or two later that Pastor Tim came to me and said, hey, I don't think you should be the worship pastor anymore. And I was like, what? I'm losing this too? Like, what's going on? And then Pastor Tim's like, I think you should be like our online campus pastor. And I remember sitting, we were at Smoky Bones Barbecue when he pitched it to me. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. Like, how am I going to do that? And he's like, well, you got nothing but time.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
And so I was able to, sit down and have a lot of conversations with Aaron, and I was able to learn and grow and study. And because of those moments, we sit here in this room today and have the studio that we have and have the show that we have and are able to broadcast to 1,000 people every week on Sunday morning. And all of that is because of that moment where I felt like, just like Pastor Brian said, like I'd done something wrong, like I was being punished somehow.
Yeah.
And was like, this is goofy. But to Pastor Daryl's point, that was where God was trying to turn me into a champion, to be able to do something awesome for him. Because if I'd been working, I'd have been working,
Yeah.
And even though I'm, not great working with my hands, I'm always doing something, I'm always tinkering with something. And I needed that slowdown to be able to get ready for this, to do something brand new. And so I definitely look back at that moment and go, oh yeah, the wait was worth the wait.
Yeah.
but
Amen
boy,
to the
it
slowdown.
stunk.
Yeah. Amen to the slowdown, man.
Yeah.
So, you ladies got anything to share there? No? Yes? Brandy? It's Brandy's to talk.
We've all been pregnant, so
We've all been pregnant. Y'all don't know what the wait is like.
Wow, that's a mic drop there. Ding.
Both of you.
I'm kidding. She's probably going to say something. I was just being silly to lighten the mood. Now she's probably going to say something amazing and profound. Sorry, go ahead. No pressure.
I would just encourage people not to judge other people because
Man, there she
There
goes.
it is. Yeah.
because you don't know. I mean, we look at people and we're like, you've got everything together and you know what you're doing and your life is on track, but you don't know what they had to go through and all the waiting periods and the trials they had to go through to get to that point. So I would just say be cautious of
That's
judging
so
others.
good.
Very good.
Oh,
That
that's so
it is so good.
wow. You gotta just let that sit there for a second,
Yep.
marinate. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, because how many, you come and you visit, like I'll use us as an example because we're easy fodder. You come over to Brandy and my house and you may look at it and be like, oh my gosh, your house is just awesome. Well, you weren't living in the
Oh, you
trailer
didn't see
with
the
us.
last house we were
Yeah,
in.
you weren't living in the trailer with us for 5-6 years while we were figuring that out and getting as close to debt free as we could before I screwed it up and got us back into debt. But that's another story. But like, there are ebbs and flows.
Yes.
You weren't 19 sitting there looking each other in the eye, finding out you're pregnant, going, what do we do now? Like we've been through that wait. And so, you don't know anybody else's story. But those people that here's the thing. I've said this before in different ways, but this is so important. The people that you see that are going through stuff and you've never been through it, you can sympathize with them and they're thankful for your sympathy. But when you see somebody going through something that you've been through, you can then empathize with them, which is a whole other level of care that you can then get in there and say, hey, you know what? Not only do I know what you're feeling, I've been there before. And let me just be here with you. And if you want to talk, if you want to, share, if you want to tell me about what you're going through, I've been through that. And that is some of the most impactful ministry that any of us can do in our lives is when you're able to empathize with a situation. If you're a drug addict, man, I really can't help you too much. I can sympathize and I care about you and I want to help you and see you be better, but I've never been addicted to anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to talk about being addicted to porn, I've been that guy and I know what that's like. And I can talk to you about that and I can empathize with you and we can share the struggle of what that's like to fight through that. And so that's where you do real ministry is when when you're going through the waiting periods and you're going through those tough times and you're growing and God's strengthening you. He's doing that so that you can have those moments when you come out of the other side of that to be able to empathize with people and to really speak into somebody's life and be a champion in that moment. We just gotta grow and marinate when we're in those moments and really allow ourselves to be strengthened.
One thing I would say is, and I'm so happy you shared that, but we have to be willing to listen to people. And I think back to growing up in church when we used to have what was called testimony service, and people would come up and share. You don't find that as often anymore, but when people would share their testimony, it actually grew people closer in the church because now you could relate to that person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you had an opportunity to go, wow, I didn't know they went through that. And let me go talk to them. And you just understood people, And I remember when you said about pornography, I just remember, growing up in church when a man said that. And of course, it was all new then. And I mean, some of the, people in the church were like, oh, wow. But it was just the fact that somebody said it. And people... It was out there. Now people, some of the men went up and surrounded the man and helped them know that you got brothers that are here and different things. And I mean, some of the the best experiences were during the times of testimony services at my church, because you just learn so much. And I learned so much as a kid looking at adults who were struggling. So when I got older, I realized, wait a minute, hey, they were adult, but they struggle just the same. You know, it's not just they have it all together. You know, so sharing your testimony and having people who could listen is so valuable. I think what you said is so good, JD.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible tells us that we're supposed to confess our sins one to another, not just to Jesus and to God, but to be an open, because when you're more open and vulnerable, man, that's where real community happens. You know, when you intimately know people and you know their faults, but you also know their successes, man, that's where you really grow community.
Yeah.
Let's try and squeeze one more clip in here. I know it's getting a little late, but we'll do one more and then we'll call it a wrap.
Tell somebody, wait the wait. Tell somebody, wait the wait. Wait the wait. Wait the wait. When an army surrounded David in the wait, he didn't fear. Even when war broke out against him, he was still confident, waiting in the wait. In the wait, he sacrificed with shouts of joy. He sang and made music to the Lord. In the wait, the Lord received him just as he was. In the wait, David assured himself that he'd see the goodness of the Lord.
And all of those waits were WAITs, but, you know, AI, as we have spoken about this evening, it couldn't tell what kind of weight we was waiting on, but yeah.
It carried a lot of weight.
It carried. All right, anybody want to chime in on this one real quick? I'll go ahead and go because I hate dead space. You know, I really, this was, you know, I thought Pastor Darrell's, you know, most powerful moment when he started talking about this, about waiting the wait. You know, David is such a great example of how to screw it up, but still love God through the midst of it. If you've ever thought that, man, there is no way that Jesus and God could possibly accept me, I've done my past. If he knew my past, which he knows your past, but if he knew my past, oh man, there's no way he would ever accept me into heaven or give me a second look. Dude, David was all the things. He was a murderer. He was a hypocrite. He was an adulterer. He was I mean, you name it, this dude did it and did it wrong multiple times sometimes.
Several times.
And I literally had prophets come and try to explain it to him, and he was like, whoever that is, I'll kill him. And the prophet's like, that's you, dummy.
Right.
That's right.
And so, like, I love the thing, you know, I said this the other day when I was preaching about how we need to view the Old Testament through the lens of everything points to Jesus, right? And when you read the story of David as a redemptive story where you get into his mess, like his own son tries to kill him, like it's his family tree is nasty. And God really opened, like more than almost anyone else in the Bible, you're with David from like 8 or 9 till he dies. Like you see it all. And they don't really hide much. Like you get every bit of his story. And you really see this guy just screw up after screw up after screw up. But then you see him have these mighty things that he does for God. And now here we are in the book of Psalms where, you know, 70% of it is written by David himself. And every other song, you'd think he's bipolar if you read them in order, man. The first song is a lament about all the terrible things that he's done. The next song is, you know, joyful about how God's moved in his life. The next song is my enemies have surrounded me and I may die tomorrow. Yes. And David just continues to get put through it and put through it and put through it. But he was always being formed by God and at multiple different points where he would get it right and God would look down and be so proud and then he'd screw it up.
Yeah.
And you would think, okay, that's where God's going to throw him away and take, he's not going to be king any longer. God's going to take, no. God would restore him and he would work his way through it. And then he'd screw up again some other major way,
Yeah.
sightseeing some chick on a balcony, that he's not supposed to even be in town
Right.
for.
I would say that, the actual sentence of wait, the wait, is hard if you have not really been through anything. One, it's hard if you forget what you've been through. And the fact that, as David would, write these Psalms and write things down, it's so good. And Pastor Darrell mentioned that in his sermon that, he has a book that he goes back to. He can remember some of the things that God has done. That's so important because when you're waiting that wait, that's a concept that you have to really just let marinate in your brain to understand what exactly does that mean. I'm waiting during this waiting period. And it's made easier when you remember where God is taking you from. So, for example, that's why when the children of Israel will come out of something big, they would always put a monument up to remember.
Right.
So every time they walk by that.
Or a festival or a feast.
Yes,
or
or a feast or something like that to remember. Hence the Passover.
Yeah, get that stack of stones. Oh, yeah, that's where God did that thing with Jacob. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you think of communion that we all partake in, that was, we go back to was remember the Passover. That was a big deal where, the Egyptians were killed, and because of the blood on the doorpost, they were remembered, the Passover. So it's like you have to remember those things because it's going to help you as you wait the wait.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's when people give up, and you would see that happen in the biblical times all the time, and it still happens today. People give up, and they finally quit, and they go, "It's not worth it." And you're this close.
Yeah.
Imagine if Daniel would have stopped praying in the Bible, and that's part of the Bible. What happened in the book of Daniel?
Yeah.
And while he was praying, there was war going on in the heavenlies, but but God heard his prayer immediately. But he just kept praying, and I think it's so important for us to.
21 days to get there, or whatever?
Yeah. So it took some time. So just that it's hard, but you have to remember, man, look what God has taken me from, and when you don't, and that's so difficult. So remembering, it's so important.
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned in this segment that David always felt. Even when David fell, David always fell back on where he came from. And where he came from was a place of silence, a place of space with God. Because, David's early life was documented as out in the wilderness tending sheep, fighting off lions and bears. I guess there's bears in the Middle East, but
Hey,
whatever, right? They're everywhere. Yeah. But that was the alone time. That was his time together with God. And it wasn't like an hour. It was days.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe even weeks. I don't really know how long.
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't document how long he would be out in the wilderness by himself.
We
And
know
he
there
was
were
the only
shepherds
one.
out in the field at night when Jesus was born, right?
Right.
Like it was a full every time gig.
And I think that's one of the things that God honored about David, because he honored him that way as king, was the time he spent with him. Nothing else. The bad things he did mattered, but God and he knew each other enough that he was always going to redeem him. He's going to redeem us too, but we don't always see it. The different ways he might redeem us, or forgive us, or bring us out of the way, or bring us out of the terrible thing. But David, I think, always fell back on that time, and that's the part that a lot of us miss, because one of the great deceptions of our time is our lack of time.
Right.
Our perceived lack of time.
Right.
We're so daggone busy with everything the world says is successful and everything that the world says is important that we don't have any time to do it.
Right.
And so we lack for vision or whatever.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that, David is eventually referenced in the Bible as a man who was after God's own heart, right? And yet when you think about all the bad things that he did, you're like, how could God be so thankful and elated with this guy? And I think, to Aaron's point, one of the things that David wrote often, especially in the book of Psalms, is this word, the Selah, which that word just means to pause, to meditate on this is essentially what that means. You'll see it throughout his Psalms and his songs. You know, it would be like we're gonna read a stanza of poetry, and then before I go on to the next stanza, I want everybody to just chew on what I just said in that top part. And we need to take a moment and think about what that was.
If you were listening.
Yeah, right. Right.
Seriously, are we just trying to get to the next stanza?
Yeah, right.
So good.
Right.
You're actually listening.
To say we did it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that David was one of those people who, that may be the part of God why he was someone who God said, oh, he gets it. He, even though he screws up all the time, like literally every time he turns around, he messes something up. At the same time, he understands that where you're going to meet me is when you're waiting and you're pausing and you're meditating. And that's where we can do the formative work, so that then when you go out and do the task, whatever the task is, you've got me at your back, and we've been through some things together. And I think all too often we just want to, you know, and a lot of that I think may be coming full circle with this, where church hurt comes from. Because we think, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. I can do it. I can do the thing. Yes. Well, you know what?
Organized.
Yeah. You know what? If you've never been around a bunch of screaming kids and tried to teach them about Jesus, it's hard sometimes, and Jesus disappears and somebody else comes out, you know, while you're trying to teach kids, you know, right? I mean, that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you think, I'm prepared for this. Put me in. And someone else may see, no, you need to wait the wait, like Pastor Darrell said. You know, you need to just relax your horses because you're not quite there yet. That doesn't mean you won't be ever. And then people get hurt and offended, and we
You
know
know,
what
even in
happens.
the word, I said testimony, you know, the first main word is test. And we all got to have our own test in a sense. And I heard Chuck Swindoll said once, he says that God would not use you until he allows you to be broken. You know, and actually it was a different author that said that, but to be honest, but I just remember chewing on that statement and thinking, man, that is just so good, you know, and it's so true that, you know, everyone in the Bible before God used them, there was something they went through.
In some way, yeah, right.
In some way, there was a test.
Yeah.
You know, and just, you know, I think all of us will go through that. And we read all about David's testament. I mean, he ultimately became king, you know, and also in his test, he paved the way for even his son Solomon to do what he did. And granted, Solomon made his own choices.
Yeah.
but you think about the blessing that was over his life and over his rule and reign as king because of what his father had done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, yeah, you know, the Bible is a giant book of broken people and how God used them. And so if you've ever thought to yourself, man, I'm too broken, I can't really be used, that's not in the book anywhere. Actually, the exact opposite is what is in the book, is that because you're broken, I can use you, and I want to help you grow and get and know me more. So, well, we are so thankful for Pastor Brian joining us tonight. It was such a good time.
It's wonderful to be here.
And we had a really, really good conversation tonight. I hope that you all enjoyed it. And we will be back in a couple of weeks with I don't know who. I'll figure that out.
Surprise.
But yeah, who knows? I do have a new goal. I'm going to see how many Heelys I can fit into this room in one show all at the same time. But
There's a lot of us.
But we were having fun with that today. So we love you all so very much. Let me pray for you, and then we'll let you go and have a good evening. Dear Lord Jesus, we just come before you, and we are so thankful, God, for our friends that are watching us all around the internet, all around the world from home. And God, this idea of us just being patient in you and growing so that we're able to give you our all. You know, you have so many things that you want for us, and we just have to be patient. But at the same time, we have to be growing. And you know, all too often, I think that we get impatient because we're in a fast-paced society. But God, I pray that you would just help us all to understand that the wait's worth it. But don't waste the wait. taking Pastor Daryl's sermon even one step further. Just because you're in a waiting period where you're in between things, man, grow. Learn that next thing, learn that next skill, get deeper in your relationship with you so that when you come out on the other side, you can go be impactful. God, I hope that everybody would have a great rest of their week. And then we come in here Sunday ready to rock and roll for you and to give you praise and glory and honor. And I pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, everybody. Have a good evening. We love you all so much. Bye, bye, bye.